You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Geekologists, we are Systematic Geekology. We are your priest to the geeks. And if this is your first time listening or first time having an experience with us here in a comic book store, what we mean by priest to the geeks is that we are those mediators between those things we geek out on and the bigger questions around theology, philosophy, the questions that haunt us at night or capture our imagination. And I am one of your hosts, Will Rose, one of your priests to the geeks. And we're going to go down the line here and introduce ourselves and share one thing that you're geeking out on. That's kind of what we do here at Systematic Geekology. We geek out on things and then share and then spread the geek around. So we'll start way down the other end. TJ.
Oh, man. I've been geeking out on Jujutsu Kaisen super hard. Jujutsu Kaisen is at its peak right now, I think, in the manga. Also, a company called Gamer Subs. That's beside the point. Just released a flavor called Cursed Energy. It's raspberry tea. It's delicious. It is an official collaboration with Jujutsu Kaisen. It's great.
Awesome.
Oh, I thought you were going to introduce me like...
No, we're going to start down there. Elizabeth, go for it.
was like, this is TJ.
Yeah.
So
all right, Elizabeth, your turn.
Thank you. Gosh. Just a little respect, please.
There you go.
I'm Elizabeth. I have been geeking out over Harry Potter lately. I am re-listening to all the audiobooks and we're just having a good time.
Nice.
I'm a Ravenclaw, in case you needed to know.
Okay, we did. We did want to know.
I knew I liked you.
Christian, what's up, buddy? All right, you're next.
Right, Will. I am next. And I'm geeking out. Last night, Pang was able to stay at my parents' house, and we watched the Studio Ghibli film Whisper of the Heart.
Oh.
And she got to see me cry like a little baby over the Shizuku's journey there.
It's a good one.
I really enjoyed that film. It may just be recency bias, but 10 out of 10.
Okay, nice. That's a good recommendation. Hey, everybody, I'm Will. What I've been geeking out on, there's a new Ahsoka trailer. And with all the strikes going on with writers and actors, I have a feeling there's going to be a delay in a lot of the things that we geek out on. But looks like Ahsoka's done. And they put out another 2-minute trailer, and I cannot wait for this show. A collaboration of Rebels and Clone Wars and prequels and all kinds of things coming together. And I cannot wait for this TV show that's going to come in August. Big Star Wars fan and can't wait for this show. We're coming to you live from Temple's Edge Comic Book Store here in Matthews, North Carolina. And so Joshua had this vision, this idea of us coming together, doing an event here in Matthews at this store so that we can geek out on things, give out prizes, perhaps do some games, do some devotions together, hang out, just an excuse for us to hang out together in person. So we're really excited to do this and do this as an episode and do live on our YouTube channel. So welcome all of our guests and those who are listening now, presently live or in the future. We love you. All right. So let me set the context. We are in a comic book store surrounded by comic books and action figures and toys and card games and friends. And so as we're around these things that capture our imagination, these things that we geek out on, our topic today is a topic that we've had before. One where we talk about what if we discover life on other planets? What impact would it have on life, society, government, religion, faith? How would that impact us as individuals and as a society and communities of faith? And so we've talked about those things. You can go back to former episodes and explore what we've talked about. But today we're going to have a little different kind of twist to it, a little different kind of twist. Instead of talking about what if we discover life on other planets that are conscious beings that have a central nervous system that can communicate with us, what if we discover like basic life or plant life or life that can't really communicate back with us? So what if plant life on other planets? I've been reading some books on like theology and what would happen if we discover life on other planets. There's astrobiology of like finding just biology on other planets. There's astrotheology. What's the impact on religion and thought if we discover life on other planets? And there's astroethics, like what would it mean about these questions we ask about who we are in the universe and how we treat life? So all those kind of topics come together. And so I'm just going to throw it out there because TJ, I think, has some biology background, major, studied. He's not necessarily a botanist, but I think he likes plants and biology. And so TJ, let me just throw it out there. What if we don't necessarily discover intelligent life, but just like a random plant or microorganism somewhere on another planet?
Right. So plant life would be huge, would be massive. Microorganisms, I think, is the most likely to really happen. And unfortunately, like not a lot would happen immediately because, we can't really get to most of the planets, at least not manned, definitely not manned. We can't get to any of them actually yet. But the implications it would have for not just like medicine, but also food, xenogastrology.
That's a word I have not ever heard before.
Super exciting.
Can you say that again? Say that again.
Yeah, xenogastrology.
I like that. Okay, cool.
But I think that would be the biggest impact on, plant life.
Okay.
Plant life.
What is xeno? Like, I don't know.
Xenogastrology. I think it's a word. I think I made it up just now. But it's, it's just like, what is the word that I'm thinking of? Experimental gastrology. Or, gosh, what do they call it? Like the fancy guys who make bubbles that taste like sweet tea and stuff.
Sweet.
That kind of thing.
Gastrology. Okay,
yeah. Cooking.
Yeah.
Fancy cooking with plants from other planets. But that and medicine. Most medicines are based on a plant one way or the other. That could be huge. We find a plant on another planet and we manage to get a sample. We start cultivating it and it turns out it stunts growth severely. We'd use that as like a targeted treatment for cancer.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we don't necessarily like discover like venom.
No, that would be awesome.
Like the villain venom, like those kind of things. Like, what if we bring something back and it like takes over? It's like an algae bloom of that. So I think behind this question, the questions that we ask when we talk about like extraterrestrials or intelligent life, behind that is what is our place in the universe? And we think about like our planet, we think our cosmos, we think about who are we? Why do we matter? Do we matter? Is there something behind it all, an intelligence that's directing all these things that give us purpose? And so if we find life on other planets, that helps us, or really kind of shifts our thinking in terms of who we understand ourselves as humans and our place in the universe. But then again, like cosmos creation, how we take care of our plant life here, how do we take care of plant life beyond the stars, beyond our own planet? So those are some of the questions that kind of rise up to the surface for me. And again, we're surrounded by comic books and there's so many cool stories out there that explore and ask the questions, what if, what life out there we encounter our life, what would they be like? And I think even when we reduce it to not necessarily an alien from a spaceship or a civilization that uses technology on another planet, but just random plant life or microbes in the water.
Yeah. I think pretty immediately we would see like a massive shift in, the world's cosmological goals to like retrieving that, cultivating it. As far as what would happen immediately is they would definitely start trying to go get that plant or microorganism.
To study it, because that's our curiosity as humans. And, more and more science has shown us through like the James Webb Telescope and others, how vast our universe is, how many planets there are, how many stars and galaxies, and the numbers are in the billions. And so there's this kind of idea of like, of course there's life out there because there's just so many plants. And if the same chemical makeups are around our own solar system, then they're out there in space, then surely there's another planet in kind of a habitable zone, a Goldilocks zone that can cultivate or life can evolve there. And so those are the questions that we're asking. Elizabeth, I'll ask you, like, what have you thought about these questions? You've shared before that like you're not a big like sci-fi person. That's okay. Not a day in your life. But in terms of asking the question, looking at the stars, wondering, the big questions out there. Are we alone? Or even like going down to plant life. What are some thoughts?
Stars, pretty, look, Big Dipper. That's it.
That's it.
That's pretty much
So
it.
romantic.
Yeah.
That is.
Yes.
What would you most like us to find as far as like what kind of plant that might help with cooking?
So- Yeah, even if we did find plant life on the other planet, I just think it's going to be so much money, so much tax dollars, and then only the elite is going to get to it. So if you can't find a plant to cure cancer, the modern man is not going to change at all because we're not going to be able to afford it at
Yeah,
all. Just like
right.
today's medicine, we
Yeah.
can't afford half the medicine we have. So I'm kind of like, it'd be cool. Like if we did do it, oh cool.
Yeah. What she means is a new grain, something we could make like space bread out of.
Space
yeah,
bread.
that'd be cool. But here's the thing.
Space beer.
Only
Space
the
toast.
elite,
There is a
only
space.
the elite top private chef who can afford that space.
Yeah,
bread
yeah.
will get it. So my life would not change whatsoever. So I don't really think about space too much.
And that's a good point because we're seeing it now. Like only the top 1%, the elite, the billionaires are able to even like go to space at the moment just to kind of have fun or explore. And they're
If they are
pushing that.
going to space, or is it a conspiracy that then a tin can with lots of really good TVs?
Yeah.
I think they're going to space.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly before my life, I think that about computers.
And compute and the moon and going to the
I'm
moon.
just saying, did we really go? I mean, just
Wait.
it's a question.
There are.
I really
ethical
don't care
questions.
enough. I just like to bring the debate.
Yeah, I love it. And that's a part of the debate. It's part of the conversation. And I think there are ethical questions that revolve around this about where do we invest? What do we put our money towards? What's going to help all of humanity or just those who have the money to be able to do it? And whether it goes down to like pharmaceuticals and cancer treatments and insulin for diabetes and food for people who are hungry, like all that, again, these speculations and thinking beyond our planet out into the universe helps us ground us even here to think about the big questions about how we're funding health and food and hunger here right in our backyard or right down the road from us. So I think those are all super valid questions and points to bring up. Christian, what are you thinking? You're in seminary. Do they have like an astrotheology or astrobiology class in seminary that they're wrestling with these big questions around faith and science?
Not his
I-
seminary.
Yeah, I would kill for that class.
Okay. All right.
It
That's
does not
an ethical
exist.
question too. That's an
Yeah.
ethical question too about murder.
Uh,
But we'll talk about that later.
Kill, not murder.
Okay, there's a difference.
Kill 'em with
Okay.
kindness.
We're parsing out that commandment. I see where you're going. He's studying Hebrew, y'all. He's studying Hebrew. So
So I am done with Hebrew. Thank God.
Yeah,
Now
I
it's
hear you.
Greek I have to worry about,
Oh,
That's easy.
which is easier.
yeah. So what are some of the questions? I mean, you're a comic book fan.
Yeah.
You love sci-fi. We're Star Wars buddies.
Mhm.
Like, what are some things out there that come to your mind when asking this question?
But it's like, well, can this plant life, if it is able, or algae, or what have you, can we bring it here? Would it just spread like crazy? Is it going to be
Okay.
the kudzu of the astrophysicist world?
Mm-hmm.
And can we control it in a way that doesn't harm our own environment? Or could it do something that even repairs our own environment? Maybe it's adapted in a sense that being more of a extrophilic, that's correct, right?
Oh,
It's
that's a
like-
good word too. I'm gonna look it up.
I'm thinking of like
Awesome,
it lives
look
in
that up.
environments that
Oh, sure.
a little harsher than
Yeah.
normal.
We need a dictionary.
Yeah. And see, like, well, what can we do with that? Or
Mhm.
at the end of the day, like, is it ethical to even bring it here in the first place? Can we remove something from God where He put it and take it elsewhere?
Yeah, and we evasive species. In terms of whether it's animals or plants, even our own planet. What happens if like a seed falls on a ship and then you bring it across the seas to another country, and whether it can thrive or not or take over is something to think about. Or maybe we don't think about it. We don't think ahead. Or we don't ask those questions before we do it. We can do it, so why not just go ahead and do it? So that could be a problem too. TJ, I see you nodding your head. You have some thoughts in there that you're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think we're taking the plant anyway. Put it in a greenhouse, nice and sealed up. Recreate its planet's atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and ideally, it wouldn't be able to grow anywhere else on Earth naturally.
Right.
That's kind of my idea. Well, a little bit more fantastical than what is likely to happen. We're going to find a planet that is just like Earth and grows plants like Earth's. But anything is possible.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about exoplanets, especially, like, anything is possible. Recently, we discovered one. I want to say it's a few hundred light years away.
Mm-hmm.
It is the closest planet to its star, and it has titanium clouds.
Okay.
And because it has titanium clouds, it still has an atmosphere, despite being the closest one to its star, which normally what happens, like we see with Mercury, that's just a rock.
Right.
The sun is just destroying Mercury every day. It can't do anything to protect itself. It doesn't have a magnetic field. There's nothing there for it.
Right.
There's no ionosphere. There's nothing. But literally anything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where our kind of imaginations run wild with these sort of things. There's a book out there, I've recommended it before. Paul Davies, an astrophysicist, wrote a book called The Eerie Silence. And he's talking about kind of like, all right, if there are the stats are so many planets, so many stars, so many galaxies, and there's just like numbers you can't even fathom, then why is it so quiet? Why haven't we discovered it yet? Why are we, is it because we haven't traveled that far? We haven't been contacted yet? And he's of the kind of like, the mindset, he's not necessarily religious. He confesses he likes the religious questions that emerge and what that would mean to religions around the world. The book I'm reading on astrotheology, Ted Peters edited it. He's a Lutheran theologian in California. Paul Davies actually wrote the foreword to it. It's pretty cool. They have even though they're on different sides of the coin in terms of like religious life and faith, they're able to still have this conversation around faith and science, which I think is really healthy. Anyway, he goes to say like rare earth, that he's of the mindset. He was director of SETI. They've been listening a long time, whether there's extraterrestrials out there or not, and it's pretty quiet. And so he's of the mindset, leans into maybe Earth is rare. Maybe Earth is one of the just super rare. All right, there's some doggies. I don't know if we can hear it, but yeah. So why haven't we discovered yet? Why is it just because we just haven't reached that part yet? Christian, why haven't we discovered any life or plant life out there yet?
Well, it either hasn't made its way here, or we're just not technologically capable enough to reach it yet. Right. I mean, there's the question of, is there life on Europa right now? Is one of the big ones people are asking. I mean, plenty of other moons of Jupiter and Saturn too.
Yeah, a few of them. Yeah, like Ganymede, Io. I think Io actually has great potential for plant life. Sulfur or microorganisms, definitely not plants.
Yeah, we've proven beyond doubt that there are microorganisms outside of Earth.
Yeah, well, tardigrades.
Yes. I think it's just the limits of our technology at this moment in time.
Right. And Paul Davies was saying that even if we find microbes on Mars and like, oh, look, there's planet, he says that we're such an impact zone and over, hundreds of thousands of years, billions of years, rocks smashing into both Mars and Earth, that perhaps there's just kind of microbe shrapnel that are on Mars, that it could just be from us, not necessarily originated on Mars by itself, but it just kind of traveled as you travel across an ocean to another planet or another kind of continent. The same thing can happen in space.
Cross-pollinating.
Cross-pollinating.
Yeah. C.S. Lewis actually put that there.
Yeah.
He went on site to write Paralandra.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right. Let's see some other questions here. Any questions from our viewers out there, Joshua, at all? Anything coming up? Is there a question here on our page that interests you guys the most, you want to think about? We've talked a little bit about like, how many planets are out there and those kinds of things, but bringing back samples. What other questions that strike your imagination or want to dive into?
Yeah. Well, I think the question is, how likely are we to, get to these places?
Okay.
Which currently it's just not very likely.
Right.
Unfortunately. But, if we can somehow prove that there is life on Europa, we got, space whales in there. What are we going to do about that? Not much.
Yeah. We've kind of, we're not even, I guess we're close, but not that close to like putting human beings on Mars. And that's the closest one to us. You talk about like a planet 100 or even 3 light years away. It would take a long time. There'd be some other things that have to advance in terms of like wormholes and sleep stasis that would have to get us there. But, we are, Paul Davies brings up again in that book, that if we encounter intelligent life out there, most likely we're going to encounter their technology before we encounter them. And so same way with us, most likely on other planets, we're going to send technology or spaceships or drones or telescopes out there way before humans ever get there. So we may take pictures of something before we can actually like go and step foot on one of these planets or take a sample and bring it back to Earth. We'll have to have a robot or some kind of technology do that for us. Do you guys want that to happen? Are you like hopeful about those things? Is this something like, again, Elizabeth's like, no, I'm good.
That's just a lot of taxpayers. Like, who's going to fund it? You know what I mean? I can't even get my student loans forgiven by the government right now. Why do I want to have them, go into space on my dime?
This is why I love having Pang along. For all this. It's always nice to have a dissenting voice. I really appreciate it. But I'm all for it, Will. Going out there and exploring and seeing what else. I mean, I think God is way too creative to just stop with us. That's really my main argument for why I think there is other intelligent life out there. But I mean, he didn't just stop with sapient beings either. He made plant life. He made amoebas and so on and so forth. Like, what else could he have made that we only have barely scratched the surface of by just looking at our own planet?
There's a diversity in the ecology of our planet, and why wouldn't it be in the universe too? And I love that, Psalm 8, when I look to the heavens and I consider the work of your hands, what are we that you're mindful of us? I mean, that's what I draw back to. Humans are naturally curious and want to learn and grow and think through. So just like exploring, hey, that mountain there, what's on the other side of that mountain? Or, hey, there's a body of water. Let's go underneath it and see what's there. Again, beyond our own stars, what's out there, and how does that impact or shift or help me grow in understanding my place in the universe and my understanding of God. Well, what are your opinions? Like, okay, so we don't find alien life, but we find just plant life. Would that have an impact on like your faith community? We've talked about individually what we think about that, but in terms of the people you hang with in your circles, your faith communities, socio-political communities you hang with, what impact do you think it would have? Would you be like, life goes on, or to be like, wow, this helps us, this forces us to rethink a lot of big things?
Yeah, I think first, like my group in particular, be like, wow, awesome. And that's it.
Okay.
My group would think it's a government scheme just to try and figure out like what's really going on
And trying to distract us.
My dad
to be
would think
honest.
Yeah.
Like that, like my group. I would be like, okay, cool. I don't care. Me personally.
It is interesting when there were some presidential indictments going down. All of a sudden, there's this like whistleblower about a UFO, and I'm like, don't look down here, look up, y'all. So there is something along with that I entertain and think about as well.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to side with TJ on this. I know there are some people I know who would be like with me, like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? What are the implications of what we've discovered here? And other people go, oh, okay, that's nice. It's like whenever someone ever sees an article, we found this new sea cucumber or what have you. It's like me, I'm like, there's a new sea cucumber out there. That's amazing.
Right.
And I just saw that article like a month ago or something like that.
Okay. I need that article. If there's a sea cucumber, I kind of want to. Can we pickle it?
They clickbaited me too. So,
okay.
New undersea creature discovered. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
we finally found the sea serpent.
That's how they get you.
It barely qualifies as a creature.
Yeah.
Wait, are you saying media lied to you?
Yes, media unfortunately lied.
Wow. Shocking.
They lured you in. We are the
We
media.
said
We are
I am
currently lying to you.
We're not calling each other truthers. Just saying.
Well, okay. Again, this book I'm reading about astrotheology, Ted Peters draws out these different groups. That there's the idea of like never aliens because it doesn't coincide with how we understand Scripture or God. There's those who are always aliens, like they are the ones who are going to save us from everything. And then there's the ones in the middle who are kind of like we should have a posture of welcome to aliens or the other or the stranger, and that's the posture Jesus had towards the other around him. So maybe that should be our posture towards exploration and meeting strangers or aliens.
We don't even have that posture with refugees today.
Right, exactly. So perhaps we should learn about that first before we figure that out. But these mental exercises or examples that entertain our imagination can also help us, hopefully train us to think through in community and communities how to answer these questions so that it does help us when we meet the refugee or the stranger or feed those or encounter a different kind of plant life or a sea cucumber. Are there sea cucumbers on like Europa?
Probably.
Okay.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Man. I think in a perfect world, with cheap private space flight, Will and I will be able to go surfing on Europa one day.
Oh, yeah. We haven't even talked about like water on other planets and waves and physics and gravitational pulls and what you could do. It could be like that's the next what if.
Oh, I
What
can't
if
wait.
Will found water on another planet,
gonna be
an ocean on
counting
another planet?
Yeah, Europa's got crazy swells. Has to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
Jupiter's gravity making waves. Ooh, forget about it.
it's gonna be tough.
I did actually.
Yeah, I know you did.
Okay, other questions out there that are lingering and for our audience.
One
Austin,
that here
yep.
I'm interested in. If we knew the plant life was endangered on another planet, or the planet was about to be destroyed, how would we have a duty to save the planet?
Yeah, and not necessarily a duty, but we would feel obliged, I feel like.
Once again, we don't do that now. Look at all the animals we're letting go extinct.
Try to do
And
So they can they
I
hear it here?
promise.
Should I repeat the question? Are they able to hear what you're saying? Probably
Repeat it just in case.
not. No. So Josh was asking like, so if we discover plant life on another planet that's like endangered or in danger of extinction or not existing, do we have an obligation or a duty to take care of it as kind of stewards of the cosmos or creation of Earth? And for me, it's somewhat an easy question to answer, but as Elizabeth has shared, as we look at what the kind of history of what humans do to our own planet, we don't have a very good track record. So what do you guys think?
So if you look at every endangered species, unless they're like very recently endangered, there is an organization dedicated to preserving that species. I
Right.
promise.
Yes, there may be an organization, but it doesn't stop people from still poaching, even though it's endangered.
No,
So
of course not.
that's what I'm saying. Like, even if there
There's
is
a struggle between
like
the good
even if
side.
it is an organization, you're gonna have some kind of it happens in almost every movie. There's always that jerk who ruins everything because it's like,
Yes.
I'm gonna take this, no one's
Mhm.
gonna know, I'm gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah, but
So I'm just,
we would, as people, would be trying to save it.
maybe as you people are the organization, but not people as in the whole. You can't speak
Yeah,
for the
but I
whole
bet
people.
there's more people in the organization than there are poachers.
Yeah, but I'm saying the point is, we will not.
Yeah, no,
and
it won't
how
be
would
united.
How would you know if it's even endangered if we're just now discovering the plant? So that means you would have to discover the whole entire plant.
There's a black hole really close to the planet.
No, see,
Yep.
it's just
That's
it's
the
illogical.
kind of thing we're talking about. Like it is, we can tell that plant might go extinct soon.
Oh, okay, yeah, easy. No, we're gonna be like, ooh, plant, let's bring it home.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to happen with every plant.
Yes,
If we find them, it's like, oh yeah, that's coming with us.
you're coming home with me.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
like
this
showing
kinda
up to
ties in.
it's like going to the animal shelter. It's like, oh, that's mine.
I think this kind of ties in with another question you have here on this list about, does the biblical command to care for our planet extend to the cosmos and other planets? And I would argue yes, ultimately, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
God, the word used there means here, where we're around on this planet, but like that's just because that's all the people were really aware of at the time,
Right.
in my opinion. So like, if we become aware of something like this, that's something else that God chose to make elsewhere. So we'd have the same moral responsibility that he commands us to take care of our own planet to there, in my opinion.
Yeah, a doctrine around creation and taking care of creation, be a good steward of creation, extends not just Earth but the whole cosmos. And again, we've shared before the Greek word in John 3:16, for God so loved the world. That Greek word for world is cosmos or cosmo, and so it entails like all of created things. And yeah, our awareness of we used to think just was Earth and that was it, and maybe few things beyond us, but now that we've seen the extents and vastness of the universe like the James Webb Telescope, there's a lot of creation, and so our obligation of taking care of the cosmos and being stewards of that, I think, extends to all those things. And of course, there's always the danger, as Lewis said, of like exploitation. Like that's our fallen nature. That's the thing that we're wrestling with within me and beyond me with others. Is how do we resist and fight against that exploitation of others, of our own creation, and then that would go beyond our stars as well. The people who want to capitalize on it and exploit it, and then hopefully there'll be those who raise the voice of like, no, how are we treating this? And again, hopefully that will ground us and not just look beyond the stars, beyond us, but also how we treat our neighbor here and now.
So the original word for the first time that command's given, God says for us to take care of everything on Eretz, the ground. So anything on the ground. So I think that seems like that specific time it's talking about Earth, right? Or
Right.
does ground extend to grounds on other planets?
Yeah. I mean, does it mean just the ground that they're walking on at that
Repeat what
moment?
Josh just said so they know what he just said.
Yeah. So Joshua lifted up that the word in Scripture around being a good steward. Say that again. What was the Greek word?
Eris.
This is one, I think it's Eretz. but
Eretz?
it's ground.
Eretz, which means ground. And so, yeah, it lends kind of itself to think of like, oh, just take care of the ground on Earth. But what if it's the ground we're walking on? We land on another planet. What if our sentient AI robot that we shoot to another planet 3 light years away, if it lands on the ground, are we there to take care of that ground as well?
But even then, if you look into the garden, like Adam and Eve, he was responsible for like this specific ground, this specific area. So you
Mhm.
can even think like, is that even like our ground then to
Yep.
take care of?
Mm.
Personally, I actually don't think we are obliged to take care of other grounds.
Me too.
We're
Yeah,
not.
that's not
Because
our
it's like
Earth.
as me and my house, like this is like ours. Like
Yeah.
this is
Ground
my. I'm managing this as what God has entrusted to me,
Mhm.
and I'm not responsible to manage someone
I think-
else's.
It does say all.
Yeah.
So that does mean all of the Earth.
Yeah, when we get to the idea of lawns, as we discussed on Whole Church, I do think we should destroy that concept entirely because it's very terrible for the environment. And I don't also don't want to have to work for it.
Yeah, speaking of environment, though, I do think like the Environmental Protection Agency would have a division for other planets, environments.
But also, when you take care of like, it's natural whenever you take care of what's yours and manage yours well, then the surrounding land will naturally benefit from
Mm.
you being a good manager
Yeah.
of your own. So by you overextending yourself, and if I'm over here trying to like save this and I'm not stewarding good what my God has given me, that's not going to help anyone. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Josh.
I agree.
This is going to be for Peg.
That's fine.
So I have to ask, how much does this extend? Is that just you personally, or does that also then extend to you and your church has to take care of that church's ground? And then does it extend to you and your government has to take care of what your government owns as the ground?
I feel it starts with us.
But all the
So
other things also include?
it compounds. So I can't tell Christian what to take care of, what God has placed in him. I can't, even with my church area, we have different convictions.
You
So
don't think the communities are responsible for their community ground?
I feel like the church being a part of the community is responsible for being a light. So because I care about what God has blessed me with, I'm naturally involved with the community as well. So I will go do Habitats for Humanity. I will go do Adopt the Block because I have managed what God has given me and I have the resources to go forth and help others. Now, I cannot control what other people manage and what their convictions are, or if they are doing their daily devotions and whatnot. Because I spend more time with the Lord, I feel more guided to do what He has called me to do. I can't talk about anyone else's conviction or personal relationships with the Lord.
Yeah, I think that's a good point in the sense that, like, if we take care of ourselves, good stewards of our own resources, our own health, then we're going to be strengthened and okay to help others in need. So where does that begin? In our own household, our own communities. And then, as we've seen with the pandemic, we are all entangled. Like, one thing that affects one person does affect another. Same with communities and plant life. There's an ecology of like how all of creation kind of feeds upon itself and affects one another. But yet, if the plant isn't healthy and the roots aren't healthy individually, then it's not going to be able to bear fruit for others as well. So that's interesting. Tomorrow in our church, the lesson, the gospel lesson in the Revised Common Lectionary is the parable of the sower. And what I'm intrigued with this passage is not only like the types of soil and types of seed and the circumstances, but just kind of the sower's not a very good farmer. Like they just throwing seed everywhere and not paying attention to the soil around them. And so like there's this generosity and also like recklessness when it comes to this farmer and sower. And for me, it points to like creation and diversity in creation, but also like God's word going out there. And it's like, I just want to get as much out there as possible. So it brings God joy to have this diversity of creation. But I think there is a balance to how we think about our own ground that we walk on and the communities and families we're part of, but also what our actions can affect others as well. And I think, thinking about the cosmos, we're sending a lot of space junk out there, satellites and things. How is that going to affect another planet? What if it crashes on another planet and then we have some kind of microorganism, bacteria on that because some scientists put their hand on it and then it lands and on another planet and then there's some kind of algae bloom over there. I think those are some things, kind of astroethics that we can think about when it comes to that as well.
Yeah.
All good points. It is good. I love that term, astroethics.
Yeah, that's definitely
That's my
something we
first
have
time
to be
hearing
careful
that term.
Yeah, there you go. I love
I
it.
learned something.
of. Yeah, well, basically, you can take any field of study and just put astro
ethics.
in front of it. You put astro or xeno in front of it, and that exists.
Astro surfing, astro baking, astro
underwater
comic books
basket weaving.
Astro
Yeah.
underwater basket.
That's what I'm listening to.
Solid.
on Europa while I'm surfing above it.
Yeah.
You guys will be underwater basket weaving. I'll surf the waves coming in. Get a big barrel. Okay, cool. Other things. We're how far are we doing? We're doing pretty good on time. Other questions out there that's lingering that we don't, but it's hard to cover everything on a topic like this. That's why we split up these what ifs in terms of aliens. Joshua just revealed there might be another what if alien episode out there that's going to lead into, who knows? But are we leaving stuff out there that we need to tackle or
Yes, Josh.
lift up?
TJ, because I know you thought about this a lot. Repeat the question. As far as what would be easier, as far as like going to another planet to cultivate plants that are there, or bringing it back and figuring out how to cultivate it here?
Okay, so he asked if it would be easier to go to another planet and cultivate their plants there, or to bring it back and cultivate it here. Cultivating it here by far, easily, so easily. While it's easier to replicate a different planet's environment here than it is to support human life on another planet. Yeah, that's why even on the moon, like we don't stay on the moon. We can get there. We don't
Can
stay
we?
there.
I'm just kidding.
Is there a space station there? Is there a Hollywood studio that has that flag standing there blowing in the wind?
I can get to the moon myself.
Oh, okay.
I can jump there. But yeah, it'd be way easier to bring plant life here.
What about bringing their plant life here or bringing our plant life here?
So taking our plant life there, it would be exactly the same as trying to support ourselves there. So if we can do it, we can do it.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see. I mean, technology has advanced so much over the last 100 years and the last, decade. So what's the next decade look like? What's the next 100 years? What are my grandkids or great grandkids or, what will that look like and what we'll explore and how will it shift? I mean, a couple hundred years ago, people didn't even know dinosaurs exist. They were like, oh, we found some bones. Oh, what is this? And what's the next couple hundred years that we'll find or discover on our own planet or beyond?
You know what
that question?
You know what the first dinosaur found was?
A plant?
Fossil wise?
No.
Dinosaur wise? You don't?
It
was Iguanodon.
Oh,
Iguanodon.
Yeah. Yeah, really unfun, right? And nobody remembers that, but yeah, it's an iguanodon.
Okay. I thought you were going to talk about maybe Loch Ness Monster.
oh wait, no, ichthyosaurs.
No, we never
are
found
marine
it.
reptiles. They're not technically dinosaurs.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is a distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Fun. Or what if we don't? Here's another question. What if we go to another planet and we don't find plant life, but we find like fossils of plant life that they were once there and gone?
That would be just upsetting.
That would be.
Yeah, because we can see that on Mars. Mars has dry riverbeds.
Right.
Although they look like dry riverbeds. They could be something else, but they look like dry riverbeds.
It's like,
All right.
Is it?
If you say so.
Along for the
If you
ride.
say
If you
so.
say so.
Things like, oh,
Sounds
that's
good.
just a cardboard cutout of a red circle.
Yeah, I was like, if you think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this
Your
is
telescope has a slide in it that makes it look like there's Mars.
It's all a conspiracy.
super fun. Anything out there, Joshua, on online land, listeners, live people? I'm really appreciative for Temple's Edge for allowing us to podcast here and have an event and hang out with some people that I've only met through the internet, not in person. I now know they're real live people, that Elizabeth's not like a conspiracy, like for someone like an AI hologram, but she's a real human being.
If I was an AI, I would do some work for myself before appearing.
So we are very, very appreciative. And we're going to do some plugs. Like, we're out there. Like, subscribe. Oh yeah, we're going to be at Theology Beer Camp in Missouri in October, and we're going to be there among like 20 or so more other podcasters. Call them the God Pods, podcasting and theology. We're the ones that lean more into kind of like the geekdom of things and nerdy things like that. But we discovered at the last Theology Beer Camp that was hosted at my congregation last fall is that there are a lot of people that geek out on a lot of different stuff, not just theology and kind of communities and how communities of faith are deconstructing or reconstructing, but also, man, everything from like, oh man, I can't even, there are so many people. We put out on a whiteboard like, hey, tell us some things that you geek out on. And it was just filled with tons of things, some stuff I've never even heard of. So everybody geeks out on something. And so we hope you could be a part of Theology Beer Camp. We have a promo code, Geekology God Pod, all caps. You'll get a discount ticket. And yeah, again, to hang out with us in person. And you don't have to even drink beer to go. Like there are plenty of people who don't drink that are there drinking tea or wine or just hanging out with some of their favorite podcasters. And we appreciate all of our listeners. We appreciate you taking time. There's a lot of options out there, a lot of things to geek out on, and we're glad that you can be a part of this with us. So thank you. What's that? Recommendations. Yeah, we can do some recommendations. I will recommend, it's a very thick book with a lot of articles from different authors, Astrotheology, edited by Ted Peters. If you want to go deeper into this, man, it has everything for like, the discovery of extraterrestrials and intelligent life impact what we believe about the incarnation and Christology. And so I've been diving deep into that. It's a lot of fun to think through. And then Paul Davies' Eerie Silence is a fantastic book to explore and think about these things too. So Christian, what you got?
Yeah, sure. Keeping along with the theme of this, Mass Effect, the entire series, one of the things, it's not one of the main things, but they bring up the idea of what if we were to meet other races, what would be like the biochemical barriers between us? Like what can they eat that we can't eat? How can they, what environments would they live in that we can't live in? And I'd highly recommend that whole series, even 3. I'm not a big fan.
All right. Mine would be Hell's Paradise then.
So good.
Just finished up the season not too long ago, but so good.
That's an anime?
It's an anime, and I mean, it has a little poquito romance, very poquito, but it's a good time.
I'm going to recommend All Tomorrows. It is a short novel about it's science fiction, speculative evolution, written in 2006 by C.M. Kosman under the pen name like Nemo Ramjet. It's super, super interesting if you're curious about like how life might come to be in different environments.
Love that.
It's really, really interesting. It's a really good read. It's short and some horrifying illustrations in there. If you're big into like the body horror thing. Check that out. Also, he's rewriting it to be longer because it was too short.
Boom. Love that. Thanks for listening, y'all. Thanks for hanging out. Glad that you're here. Like, subscribe, share with friends, with enemies, with cousins, as others say, and help us continue to grow. It's fun to see our community and online community and connections grow beyond our circles, and it's so much fun. So thanks, y'all. Thanks for listening. And always remember, the geek in me honors the geek in you.
This was an Anazao Ministries podcast. If you enjoyed this show and would like to learn more about our network, be sure to check out the Anazao Ministries Podcast Network.